The shocking truth about Nebuchadnezzar. How God made a king into a beast. Nebuchadnezzar was not just any king, he was a towering figure of history, whose fall from glorious ruler to a wild beast is shrouded in mystery and shock. The story goes that he ruled with an iron fist, his eyes burning with the ambition of 1,000 suns. But the twist? A divine punishment turned this proud king into a creature that roamed the earth, unsightly and unkempt, lost among the brambles and tall grass. Picture it, the golden crown replaced by matted hair, and fingers that once held a scepter now transformed into claws. What led to such a dreadful fate? The whispers around Babylon hinted at whispers in the wind. It was said that Nebuchadnezzar, proud as a peacock, defied the very heavens. Voices of gods resounded in his ears, but he dismissed them as nothing more than the rustling of leaves. His arrogance knew no bounds. Celebrations rocked the capital, and the blood-red sun dipped beneath the city walls, casting eerie shadows that danced like phantoms. But in the depth of the night, strange omens appeared. A glowing star streaked across the sky, leaving an unsettling chill in its wake. As if it were a warning of darker days ahead, his subjects looked on with wide eyes. They felt an unsettling tension grow. Every eye stared up at their king, who stood on the palace balcony, façade hardened like stone, unaware of what fate held in store. Murmurs spread through the crowded streets. Was divine wrath about to descend upon the most powerful man alive? The air crackled with apprehension, each whisper a darker portent of doom. The fear was palpable. It stuck to the skin like humidity on a summer day. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The moon hung low, heavy with secrets as Nebuchadnezzar's fate was sealed. Suddenly, a thunderous roar erupted from the heavens, a sound that sent shivers down the spines of all who heard it. It was a declaration, a command, and Nebuchadnezzar was about to face his reckoning. Would he recognize the signs? Would he grasp the gravity of his hubris? Or would he continue to snub the divine, laughing in the face of complete loss? As the bright light enveloped him, the echoes of the very winds that had warned him began to fade. He was on the brink, teetering between kingship and chaos. What would become of the mighty Nebuchadnezzar now? The air turned thick with tension as that blinding light engulfed Nebuchadnezzar. Fear gripped Babylon as gasps echoed through the streets. The moment stretched like molten gold, heavy with unspoken dread. The people could feel their collective pulse quickening, each heart a ticking time bomb. In that monumental instant, a rooster crowed, piercing the silence. Was it a sign, or just a natural call? But this wasn't the usual dawn for Nebuchadnezzar. No, this was the beginning of a nightmare. As the light dimmed, the once mighty king faltered, clutching his head as if wrestling with unseen demons. The sharp contours of his face twisted into something grotesque, lines of rage melting into expressions of confusion. It was as if reality itself was fraying at the edges, unraveling his very sense of self. The palace guards stood frozen, their spears trembling in their hands. Was this divine intervention or some madness that had overtaken their ruler? Fingers of anxiety crept up their spines. They watched as Nebuchadnezzar fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Gods," he bellowed, voice cracking, "what have you done to me?" But the heavens remained silent. Shadows danced like spirits around him, mocking his plight. His once brilliant mind battled against the madness threatening to swallow him whole. Memories of feasts, victories, and conquests raced through his mind, but they faded, replaced with haunting echoes of judgment. "A beast! A beast!" he screamed, shaking his head violently. In that emotionally charged moment, he realized the truth. Those shadows were not mere reflections, but the embodiment of his upcoming descent. In the streets, Babylon's citizens felt fear and confusion ripple through them, their extravagant lifestyles now standing on the precipice of disaster. A hush fell over the marketplace, chatter cutting off abruptly as merchants exchanged worried glances. Is the king cursed? One whispered, his eyes wide with disbelief. What does this mean for us? Panic rippled through the crowds, uncertainty biting at their heels. Whispers of revolt began to rise, laced with fear. Soon, unrest would brew after all. Who could serve a king who howled like a beast? Would the throne become a relic? Suddenly, a shadowed figure emerged from the back alleys of Babylon, eyes blazing with eerie light. Tall, cloaked in darkness, it glided through the chaos unnoticed by most. But one young woman, trembling in a tattered dress, caught its gaze. She felt its power, a magnetic force pulling her closer. In that instant, everything changed. The air shifted, and she knew this figure was tied to Nebuchadnezzar's fate. Do you dare? A voice hissed from the depths of the cloak. She couldn't see the face, but she could feel its intent, like a heavy fog wrapping around her. A decision loomed heavy on her shoulders. Did she move toward the darkness or retreat back to the comforting glow of candlelight? A gasp escaped her lips as she stood paralyzed. Behind her, the crowd started to murmur again, growing uneasy. The very ground beneath them seemed to tremble, a precursor of something monumental about to unfold. The buzz of anxiety swirled around as she took a trembling step forward. What awaited her beyond that shadow? The tremors of great change had begun. The stage was set for both rise and fall. In this divided moment shrouded in uncertainty, were they destined to become allies or enemies? She felt her heart race with anticipation and dread what was coming for Babylon. The clouds swirled ominously above as Nebuchadnezzar howled in desperation, the sound echoing into the night. Would the city drown in chaos or be reborn from the ashes of the king's fury? There was no turning back. Now the question loomed. Who would claim their destiny in this storm? The cloaked figure gradually closed the distance, weaving through the fragments of murmurs erupting from the shocked crowd. The young woman's heart thrummed violently, each beat a siren cry urging her to flee, yet an unyielding pull shackled her to the moment. Her breaths came shallow, a tightness gathering in her chest as the figure raised a hand, beckoning her forward. Choose, the voice hissed again, echoing like a promise mixed with a threat. The darkness shrouded the figure, concealing its intent, yet she sensed an ancient power there, lurking beneath the surface. Her mind swirled with questions, but one pierced through the fog. What did it want from her? Panic gave way to resolve. This was her moment, an inflection point that could lead to salvation or madness. With a deep breath that felt like it might crack her ribs, she crossed the line. The crowd gasped in unison, eyes darting between her and the monstrous king, whose voice still carried over the tumult like storm winds. King Nebuchadnezzar is becoming something far more dangerous, someone whispered behind her, a merchant with an ashen face. What if that shadow holds the secret to his madness? The thought struck her, a possibility buried among the turmoil swirling in Babylon. She edged closer, drawn like iron to a magnet. Gaze upon the chosen. The figure commanded, and suddenly, with a swirl of its cloak, light erupted. The illumination cast dancing shadows that twisted grotesquely, resembling the fraying sanity of the king. She shielded her eyes instinctively, but curiosity overrode her fear. As the radiance subsided, a premonition surged through her. She began to remember tales passed down, stories of how Nebuchadnezzar once ruled like a god, but now his throne was cloaked in darkness, sliding into oblivion. Could this be the catalyst that turned a king into a beast? The thought sent shivers through her. Every soul in Babylon faces judgment, the figure whispered, sending tendrils of dread crawling up her spine. But you have the chance to tip the scales. The fate of your kingdom is intertwined with his madness. Those words twisted her stomach into a knot. What role could she play? A voice inside shouted for her to step back, to run, but the shadows conspired in her favor. Surrendering to the weight of realization, she felt a surge of courage. What are you asking of me? She demanded, shaking with uncertainty but standing taller. The figure took a step closer, its gaze piercing into the core of her being. You are a thread in a cosmic weave. Dare you yank it? Unravel the fate that binds you so tightly to Nebuchadnezzar? Before she could respond, another roar echoed through the air, a haunting sound of torment from the king. Nebuchadnezzar's face twisted in an agonizing grimace. as if battling inner demons clawing at his sanity. The cries of the city intensified, mothers shielding their children, merchants abandoning their stalls, chaos erupting in every corner. Time is short, the figure urged. Will you seize the reckoning? The young woman's mind raced. What did she have to lose? Her people were lost in despair, and an opportunity lay in the darkness. She would not stand by idly in this moment of upheaval. Addressing the shadowed figure, her voice surged with newfound confidence. I will do it. I will confront. A deafening crack of thunder jolted the air. The skies unleashed a torrent of rain, drenching the ground and washing over the panic-stricken citizens. Amid the downpour, a shadow flitted past her, a sudden rush of wind filled with foreboding. She whipped around, and the world seemed to fade. But for the dark figure emanating a pulse of disquietude, what had she just agreed to? An alliance born of dread, a choice that would spiral deeper into horrors unknown to eye. In the heart of the storm, as raindrops pelted the earth, Nebuchadnezzar was still howling, each cry a desperate plea or a warning. The tempest was their backdrop, and in that moment of choice, not only would they face the storm, but the very beast unleashed within a king's soul. What awaited her beyond the tempest? Would she uncover the truth, or would she plunge into the very madness that seized her kingdom? The night grew thicker, and her destiny loomed like a shadow across Babylon. She stood there, heart racing, surrounded by chaos and despair. The rain dripped from her hair, streaking her face like tears of the heavens mourning her choice. The cloaked figure remained immovable, its shadowy edges blurring in the downpour, a silent watchman of secrets darker than the storm. The echoes of Nebuchadnezzar's howls faded briefly, replaced by an unsettling stillness that wrapped around the crowd. A momentary pause, as if the entire world held its breath. She could feel their eyes, each filled with confusion and skepticism, hearts heavy with fear. Do you not see? The figure's voice sliced through the air, gravelly and thick like the rising mist. His torment is the gaze of truth. The madness is not solely his. It clings to Babylon like a festering wound. What do you mean? She shouted, clutching her wet clothing, the fabric clinging uncomfortably to her skin. What is the truth? Few understand the true nature of kingship, the figure replied, its voice softer now, almost seductive. Power corrupts and transforms. Nebuchadnezzar was chosen, anointed with both divine favor and untold burdens. His punishment is an echo of his hubris. She struggled against the rising tide of her uncertainty. The tales she had heard growing up suddenly felt heavier, laden with unspoken truths. The city revered the king, but could his madness stem from something far more sinister than she had been led to believe? Show me, she demanded, feeling the charge of assertion in her veins. If what you say is true, I need to see. I need to know what demons haunt him. The figure's cloak billowed around it, and in an act of defiance against the storm, it extended its hand once again, inviting. Then gaze upon the king and bear witness. She faltered, every instinct urging her to run, yet the pull was undeniable. She stepped closer, a tether between her soul and the shadows that loomed about the figure. The air shifted, thickening, as images unfurled before her, ghostly glimpses of Nebuchadnezzar, the mighty king draped in gold, once adored, now a shadow of his former self. The vision revealed a banquet hall, voices ringing with laughter, feasting in abundance. But suddenly, the laughter turned to discord, his face twisted with rage as he faced an unseen specter, anger boiling like a cauldron. I am king. I am untouchable. Kneel before me. The sound was a thunderous roar that echoed eerily against the stark silence of the night. Then the scene morphed. Nebuchadnezzar on his hands and knees, hair tangled and wild, eyes wide with terror as he howled at the moon, clawing at invisible chains that bound him to madness. No, I am not a beast. His voice broke, desolation seeping through each syllable. She stumbled back, feeling bile rise in her throat. Unhinged terror overcame her, sudden clarity fractured her heart. The king was not merely mad. He was caught in a cosmic riddle, a game of fate, puppeteered by forces beyond her comprehension. What do I do? She gasped, wrapping her arms around herself, fighting the impulse to flee. The shadows grew thick, pressuring her. Align your spirit with his, the figure encouraged, stepping closer. Walk into madness to bring him back. Only then will redemption unfurl. Seek his heart within that chaos, and the truth shall reveal itself. Fear danced atop her skin, yet something deeper beckoned her. What if she could uncover not only Nebuchadnezzar's darkness, but also her own? The chance fluttered in the storm like a frightened bird. Will you take the leap? The figure whispered, its voice dropping to a breathy pulse of urgency. The moment has come. The world around her narrowed. Raindrops fell like daggers. Thunder crashed with a warning. But behind it all, an undeniable path loomed in the distance, a path she knew would change everything. Okay, she murmured, resolve hardening in her chest. I will do this. In that instant, the storm's fury roared anew, seemingly protesting her pact. Before she could think, a flash of lightning illuminated her surroundings, and something shifted within Nebuchadnezzar's howling cries. Colors twisted and turned, images converging into a single thought. Could she truly embrace the chaos and emerge anew? And buried within the cacophony of the tempest, a warning echoed, a shadow whispering promises of salvation and peril alike. What grip would she have on her own soul if she dared to tread this line of madness? As the rain lashed harder, she understood. She was already entwined in the darkness, and soon the abyss would have its say. As the lightning faded, the world around her blurred, shifting like a sandcastle under a relentless tide. The rain, once a splash of cold reality, dissolved, each drop morphing into fragments of Nebuchadnezzar's fractured mind. She staggered, feeling the weight of his anguish grip her tightly, pulling her into his torment. Suddenly, she was no longer standing drenched on the cobblestones of Babylon. She was thrust into a desolate landscape, where shadows stretched like the gnarled fingers of despair. Darkness enveloped her, and the air hummed with strange energy, charged with peril and a frantic whisper of familiarity. Hello. Her voice shook, a mere wisp of sound that trembled against the backdrop of echoes. The barren ground undulated, revealing rough rocks and brambles that cut deeply into the soles of her feet. Pain jolted through her, as if mirroring Nebuchadnezzar's own suffering. Out of the shadows, a growl rumbled, a low, savage sound that made her heart skip. From the murky depths of the blackened terrain, Nebuchadnezzar materialized, his form a distorted mixture of human and beast, caught between realms. His face, once majestic, now twisted in anguish, eyes wild and pleading. "Leave me be," he snarled, a raw mix of fear and fury. "Get away from me, cursed one. Your pain," she began, but words faltered on her tongue. How could she convey the fragile thread of connection she felt? She took a step forward, propelled not just by sympathy, but a desperate need to bridge their divide. "I'm here for you. I want to help." His head snapped to her, eyes narrowing. "Do you dare? To tread where light cannot touch?" The weight of his words hit her hard, turning her insides to ice. What if she was wrong? What if stepping into this chaos only further imprisoned them both? What lies beyond this madness? She pleaded, feeling the turmoil swirl around them, each gust of wind a taunt. "What chains bind you to this fate, King Nebuchadnezzar?" With a furious roar, he lunged forward, and she envisioned the great beast born of the king's bitterness, struggling against the weight of his own crown. "I am no beast. This curse, this madness. It is an echo of my arrogance. I reached too far, demanded too much." As he spoke, his voice deepened, reverberating through her core. "Then let me help you release it. We can find the truth together." She held her breath, hoping against reason. Could truth really bind their spirits together in this unforgiving dark? His expression softened for the briefest of moments. "You think so? You believe you can tame the tempest within me?" He sank to his knees, the moment heavy with vulnerability. "If you seek the truth, you must bear its weight, and the darkness that shrouds it will seek to consume you as well." Her heart raced, every instinct screaming to retreat. But she felt a flicker of defiance. "I would rather face your demons than live a life cloaked in ignorance. Allow me to see, to understand." The storm around them intensified, primal and alive, but his expression abruptly turned. "Beware, for the truth is a double-edged sword. Your soul could bleed, and you might never return." A chilling dread washed over her as she contemplated the depths of his warning. As Nebuchadnezzar stretched out a trembling hand, she saw the raw desperation etched into his features. Would she take this leap? confront the nightmares of a king's past, and with them, her own? Could she face what truth awaited them both? Time hung heavy as thunder cracked above a portent of revelation, fierce and unmistakable. She could see the shadows encircling them, lurking and whispering. What if you're not the only one who will lose themselves? A voice echoed from within, but fear began to twist into determination. Together, she cried out, reaching for his hand in defiance. We'll face it together. In that moment of desperation, there was a glimpse of brightness, a dark truth that loomed ahead, unraveling like a thread pulled too tight. Could she trust him? Would stepping into the heart of his madness spark her own salvation? As their hands touched, the world exploded into chaos, a cacophony of sound and fury, dragging her deeper into the storm's heart. What awaited her in the abyss? A revelation, perhaps one that could shatter everything she believed. The moment their fingers entwined, the world fractured around her, a kaleidoscope of light and darkness that warred violently. She gasped as she felt Nebuchadnezzar's anguish amplify through their touch, each pulse a wave crashing against her spirit. The energy was electric, curling around her like tendrils of smoke, swelling into a tempest of sound, tormented wails, tortured roars, and whispers of lost hope. Hold tight, Nebuchadnezzar shouted, his voice barely cutting through the din. His grip tightened around her hand, pulling her into the storm. As they spiraled together through the chaos, she could see flickers of images swirling around them, visions of ancient Babylon, grand feasts lit with golden light, turning quickly to scenes of betrayal and fierce loneliness. Each snapshot fired her imagination, teasing forth emotions she couldn't fully comprehend. I see it, she managed to utter. The glory, the pain, it's all mixed together. His eyes widened, and in that moment, she recognized a desperate glimmer of hope beneath his layers of despair. Yes, but you must be careful. Emotions can devour the spirit if we let them. The shadows danced around them, pressing closer, hungry. The landscapes shifted again, and they found themselves standing before a massive door, intricately carved with the symbols of his rain lions, wings, a crown. It pulsated with energy, vibrating beneath their feet. How did they get here? She could feel the pulse of courage surging through her veins, tinged with trepidation. Behind this door lies the truth, Nebuchadnezzar warned, his brow furrowing as he looked upon it. My darkness, it is on the other side. It is where my pride died. You can't see it as an end, she insisted, stepping forward, her heart racing. It must be a beginning, a path to freedom. Let me in. He recoiled, shadows wrapping around him like chains. No, you don't know what lies within. The truth will strip you bare. It did to me. She took a deep breath, forcing the trembling in her hands to subside. The truth is where we find redemption, Nebuchadnezzar. Whatever it is, we face it together. I will not abandon you. With a low growl, a creature formed behind the door, an embodiment of Nebuchadnezzar's guilt and shame. Its snarling visage was monstrous, yet familiar. It had the eyes of a king consumed by defeat, twisted and ragged. Do not open it. You will awaken the beast. Then let me awaken it, she shouted, determination hardening her resolve. Let it surface. We're ready. I am. Nebuchadnezzar's gaze flickered with hesitation, a war brewing within. Was he a king or a beast? Could he embrace the truth of what he had become? Suddenly, the air grew thick, suffocating, as the door slowly creaked open, revealing a void swirling with smoky tendrils that beckoned her closer. It was more than darkness. It was the essence of despair, the pivot upon which fate had twisted, sending Nebuchadnezzar spiraling into madness. No, he cried out, the sound a desperate howl that clawed at her soul. You mustn't. But the insatiable urge to discover drove her forward, her mind abuzz with a mixture of fear and intrigue. As she reached the threshold, images rushed past her, memories not only from his life, but echoes of her own buried fears. Every whisper of regret, each shadow of hesitation, felt like an echo of her own past. She stumbled, almost pulled back by the weight of it all, but steadied herself. This is bigger than us both. We can't turn back now. Before she could gather herself, an inviting light erupted from within the chamber, momentarily blinding her, and she screamed, feeling herself pulled into a whirlwind of visions. It was the truth, raw and imminent, threatening to expose everything they both kept hidden. In that blinding moment, she could sense the weight of the king's legacy and the burden of the beast's existence intertwining. Could they reconcile the man with the monster? As the intensity peaked, something shifted within her, a dawning realization that could either break them apart or bind their fates forever. "What are you?" she whispered, her voice a fragile thread amidst the chaos. And just like that, she felt the world crack open beneath her, plunging them into a reality more terrible than she could have ever imagined. What truth awaited in that blinding light? With hearts racing, they both stepped closer. Teetering on the edge of revelation, would they be prepared for what came next? And at what cost would their curiosity reveal the nature of their souls? In that blinding light, she was engulfed by memories that felt both foreign and painfully familiar. Grainy scenes danced before her eyes, the laughter of children, the flutter of leaves in a warm breeze, and then, a sudden shift, the laughter turned to screams. The leaves fell lifeless to the ground. She stumbled, the images like jagged stones ripping through her consciousness. Nebuchadnezzar's hand was still locked in hers, but now it felt cold, distant. "You need to resist," he urged, the desperation thick in his voice. She could see panic etched into his features as he cast frantic glances back at the door, the faint growl of the creature still lurking behind it. Resist? She wanted to ask how. How could she resist something that felt like a flood sweeping her away, pulling her into its depths? The light grew brighter, and shadows clung to it, swirling in chaotic rhythm. Glimpses of a lost throne, a broken kingdom, flickered into view, vivid and haunting. "Remember who you are?" he cried, jerking her from the vortex of despair. "You are not just a witness to my sins." His voice cut through her muddled thoughts, a lifeline in the swirling chaos. "You are more. You have the strength." With a newfound resolve, she fought against the rising tide of darkness. "Then help me remember. Who are we?" She felt their connection deepening, their souls intertwining, each heartbeat sinking to an ancient rhythm. The light wrapped around them like a cocoon, and in that moment, she realized it was not just a void of despair, no. It was a crucible of transformation. A surge of energy pulsed through her body, vibrant and electric, and she gasped, her voice breaking free. "I want to let the beast take you. We can change this." Nebuchadnezzar's eyes met hers, a mix of fear and admiration gleaming through the storm of his memories. "You really believe that?" he asked, his voice shaky. "More than anything, the truth has power." With a firm grip, she willed the light forward, each word a beacon, carving a path through the swirling shadows. They surged forward together, charging towards the heart of the light, determined to confront what lay ahead. Just as they breached the threshold, the creature howled, its form shifting and writhing, as if the very essence of Nebuchadnezzar's fears was clawing its way back to him. Her heart raced in unison with the rapid beats of their connection, twisting into something fierce and protective. "What if we fail?" he whispered, his voice barely above a breath, vulnerability creeping in as the shadows hissed around them, trying to claw back at his resolution. "Then we face it again. But at least we'll face it together." A smile tugged at her lips, daring in its boldness. "And if we do fail, maybe it isn't the end." The creature writhed, shrieking in a voice that echoed with centuries of regret. "You think you can defeat me? I am his shame, his hatred. I am a king's curse." "No," she shouted defiantly, her voice ringing out like a bell cutting through the suffering. "You are only an echo of his past. We take back what is ours." With a roar that shook the chamber, the world erupted into a cacophony of color and light. Images flooded her, a lifetime of struggles, of choices, each one leading them to this defining moment. Through the chaos, she clung tightly to Nebuchadnezzar. The creature lunged, snapping with its jagged teeth, but they stood firm. She felt the pulse of his soul sync with hers, a rhythm of hope and courage. In a moment that stretched like an eternity, they pushed against the beast, their combined strength sparking vivid arcs of light. But as the darkness shattered, revealing a brilliant spark, reality shifted again. What had they awakened? Was the truth truly so simple? In that moment of clarity, all faded: the light, the beast, their fears, and then there was silence, a vast, consuming silence. What lay beyond the silence? The unknown twisted around them, forming a web of destiny. Would they break free, or would they fall prey to the shadows once again? The answers felt tantalizingly close, but just out of reach. With breath held tight, they waited, suspended on the precipice of revelation. The silence wrapped around them, a heavy blanket smothering any sound. She couldn't shake the feeling of something lurking beyond that stillness, a force poised to strike. Nebuchadnezzar's hand still held hers, but the connection felt different now, a flicker of fear mixing with hope. "Where are we?" she breathed, her voice echoing oddly in the stillness. The air was thick, a tangible tension, as if the very fabric of reality was holding its breath. I don't know," he replied, his brow furrowing. "But we must remember. We must draw the light back to us." His eyes searched her face, a plea hiding beneath layers of worry. "Can you feel it too? Something is changing." The silence began to murmur, a low hum vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. She felt it ripple along her skin, a chill that danced with the warmth of their connection. It was both unsettling and oddly invigorating, like swimming against a current that promised new depths. "Just breathe," she whispered, grounding herself as she remembered their shared resolve. "Whatever comes, we can face it." The light they had conjured flared briefly, illuminating the shadows around them. And for a moment, she could see the outline of the creature looming just outside their vision, a grotesque form clawing at the edges of their sanctuary. Then the air shifted. The darkness quivered, giving way to vague shapes, memories pulling together like threads weaving an intricate tapestry. Images bloomed, battlefields drenched in blood, thrones shattered, and a crown forgotten. "What does it mean?" she asked, desperation pinching her voice. "What are we meant to understand?" Nebuchadnezzar's grip tightened. "It's not just about fighting a beast. It's about confronting everything I've tried to bury. The truth of my past, the lies, and the power, it's all entangled." Suddenly, the hushed whispers morphed into ringing laughter, bright and mocking. "You think you can grasp the truth? You're nothing without your crown." The voice echoed, menacing and thick with scorn. The shadows around them darkened, growing restless, swirling with resentment. "That is not true," she shouted, pushing against the doubt that clung like smoke. "You are more than the throne you lost." As if to punish her words, the ground trembled, splitting open to reveal a gaping chasm beneath them. A deep, resonant growl rumbled from its depths, awakening an instinctual fear. Her heart thundered in her chest. A primal urge to flee rose within her. "No," Nebuchadnezzar cried, pulling her closer. "We can't run again. We must face this together." But the darkness was insistent, stretching its claws out, trying to pull them apart. The laughter grew louder, a cacophony of derision that warranted a response. In that moment, she felt the rage ignite inside her. It stirred, hotter than any fire, fierce enough to chase away the shadows. "Who we are is not defined by fear," she shouted into the void, her words ringing with conviction. The laughter faltered momentarily, as if in disbelief. "It is choice that makes us, not the throne, not the past." As if shaken by her rallying cry, the chasm trembled, shrinking back momentarily. Nebuchadnezzar stared at her, awe and gratitude mingling in his glare. She felt the pulse of his heart synchronize with her own, each beat an affirmation of strength emerging. But just when they thought they could push forward, sharp claws shot up from the darkness, gripping at her ankles. She stumbled, yanking Nebuchadnezzar down with her. The shadows hissed, a cacophony of fury. "Hold on," he yelled, desperately tugging her back as another wave of claws swiped at them. The abyss crackled with energy, life seeping away into nothingness. Together, they braced against the tide, the weight of their determination more powerful than the darkness. "We can't be separated," she gasped, raw panic creeping into her voice. "We must remember." Right when hope flickered like a candle about to go out, a pulse wild, vivid fueled the rush of light between them. Their bond sparked fiercely, challenging the abyss that threatened to consume them. And then, with a violent jolt, the world around them erupted. Light burst forth, blinding and brilliant, casting away the shadows. But what they faced next was a reflection of their deepest fears, a truth waiting to be unveiled as the light pierced through, obscuring their vision. A voice called out from the depths, smooth yet serpentine. "You think you've escaped? Your journey has just begun." What lay ahead was still shrouded in layers of mystery. Real danger awaited, and they were about to uncover more than just the truth. They were about to face the consequences of a king's choices. Would they be strong enough to endure? The explosion of light swallowed them whole, wrapping around their bodies like a protective cloak. She squinted, trying to find her footing amidst the radiant chaos. The colors shifted, kaleidoscopic and intense, illuminating remnants of the shadows they had just faced. Nebuchadnezzar was beside her, his expression etched in confusion, eyes wide as he caught glimpses of a fractured world spinning into focus. "What is this place?" His voice was laced with awe. She couldn't answer immediately. They stood in an unfamiliar realm, one that flickered between reality and a warped dream. Worn stone pathways stretched before them, lined with towering trees whose twisted branches seemed to reach out with claw-like fingers. The air was charged, whispering secrets just out of reach. Then the laughter returned. It was haunting, reverberating through the twisted trees. "You thought you would escape unscathed?" The sound rippled through the air, thick with malice. She turned to Nebuchadnezzar, every instinct screaming at her to be ready. "We can't lose our connection again. Remember what we just faced." He nodded, firming his resolve. "Together. Always." As the echoes of laughter danced on the breeze, strange figures emerged from the shadows. They twisted, morphing into grotesque shapes, blocking the path ahead. Each one bore a resemblance to individuals from Nebuchadnezzar's past friends, enemies, the faces of those he once ruled and those he had wronged. "Look at you, king of a fallen empire," one figure taunted, its eyes gleaming with contempt. "You're still haunted by a crown that isn't yours." Nebuchadnezzar's expression darkened, frustration and regret mingling in his gaze. "This is not real. None of this is real." "No." The voice hissed, echoing. "These are your choices, your sins. They follow you like shadows." The memory-morphing figures swirled closer, each whispering the hurts of the past. "You cannot hide from what you are." She felt Nebuchadnezzar's hand tremble in hers. The shadows were closing in, the darkness bending around them like a vice. Fear crept back into her heart, an insidious thing, but she breathed deep, willing herself to stand firm. "Leave him be," she shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony. "He's not that man anymore. He has more." The clamoring figures hesitated, confusion flickering across their contorted expressions. "More?" A figure asked mockingly. "He is defined by failure. His worth is not measured by his mistakes," she countered fiercely, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. The figures recoiled slightly, as if her words had struck a nerve. Nebuchadnezzar's grip on her hand tightened. "But what if they're right?" he murmured, anguish creeping into his voice. "What if I can't escape my past? What if I'm still that beast?" "No." She spun to face him, her heart breaking at the sorrow etched in his features. "You were never just a king or a beast. You're a man, standing up for who he wants to become. That power is yours now." Suddenly, a low growl erupted from the ground beneath them, and the figures lunged as one, their twisted forms plunging forth, reaching for all they could grasp. She felt the rush of panic. Her heart raced as claws scraped the ground dangerously close. "Hold on." Nebuchadnezzar shouted over the din. Together, they pushed against the weight of fear, anchoring themselves to each other. But the ground trembled violently, shuddering beneath their feet again. The laughter roared back into full force, rebounding off the trees, echoing their doubts and fears until it became a chorus of chaos. A flash of clarity shot through her. "Remember why we fight. For truth. For light." Their hands blazed brighter as they concentrated, pulling strength from each other. The light surged in response, brightening, overwhelming the shadows. But just as they thought they had gained ground, a figure lunged forward, claws extended, piercing the light, aiming straight for Nebuchadnezzar. She screamed, adrenaline coursing through her veins. In that split second, the world fell silent, save for the primal roar escaping her throat. Would they succeed? Or would their fears drag them down into the darkness forever? As the shadow closed in, fate trembled on a knife's edge. The question loomed: would they conquer the depths of their past, or let it devour them whole? The world cracked open around them, splintering in chaos while they stood their ground, hearts pounding in unison. Nebuchadnezzar's form flickered between the regal king and the monstrous beast, But in that moment, a glimmer of clarity cut through the din of darkness. "We can overcome this," she yelled, channeling every ounce of her strength into their connection. The shadows lunged, but they stood as a singular force. She could feel the power building, a swell of energy coursing between them, igniting hope like a flame against the encroaching night. "Together," she shouted, raising their joined hands to the heavens. "We are more than what we have been. You are not alone." In an instant, the figures recoiling at their words transformed, shifting from grotesque memories into shimmering reflections of Nebuchadnezzar's regrets. "You still think redemption is possible?" One sneered, but the taunts had lost their edge, quivering under the pressing light of their unity. "Yes," he roared back, raw strength coiling within him. "I refuse to let my past define the king I can still be." As those words hung heavy in the air, a vibrant light burst forth from the core of their bond, illuminating the twisted memories, penetrating the darkness that had threatened to suffocate them. With every pulse of intensity, the mocking figures began to dissolve, retreating from the brightness that pulsed with life. The laugh that once filled the air with despair quieted to whispers, dust settling on echoes of what could have been. "You believe in the light," one murmured, fading into the ether, "but it comes at a price." "No price is too great for my future," Nebuchadnezzar shouted, as silence enveloped them. Gradually, the darkness softened, revealing what lay beyond the veil. A magnificent expanse bursting with possibilities, the stones of ancient Babylon glimmering in the soft light. The golden glow wrapped around them like a warm embrace. She felt lightness flooding her spirit, washing over her, healing the scars left by turmoil. "We did it," she breathed, overcome with emotion as she looked at his face, the shadows of doubt slipping away like mist. But Nebuchadnezzar was loading a weighty realization on his brow. "What if it's not enough? What if I have to face the consequences of my past?" "It doesn't matter what you were," she said, gripping his shoulders. "It's who you choose to be now that truly matters. You have the chance to reclaim your legacy." With unyielding resolve, he took a step forward. "Then I will build a kingdom worth ruling." The landscape shifted, and suddenly, they were standing in an opulent throne room filled with vibrant tapestries and sunlight filtering through colossal windows. A gentle breeze stirred the golden banners. Nebuchadnezzar straightened, a new fire lighting in his eyes. "No longer will I let arrogance blind me," he declared to the assembled crowd that had filled the room. They looked on with awe and trepidation, awaiting the return of their king. "I will lead with compassion and wisdom. I have walked through madness, and I stand alive. These burdens will not define me, they will guide me." As he spoke, he stepped toward the throne, but not to claim power for himself. Instead, he extended his hand toward the people of Babylon, inviting them into the fold, inviting them to be co-creators of a better future. "Join me as we rise from the ashes together. I have been humbled, and I wish to serve you all." Cheers erupted, reverberating like thunder, the tumult of real hope now pulsing through the air. For the first time, she understood. His moment had come to shine not only as a king, but as a man willing to admit his flaws. And as happiness washed over her, she stepped back, watching this transformation unfold. In the midst of his reclamation, she felt embers of truth igniting within herself. Perhaps she was no longer just a witness in this grand tapestry. She too would weave her thread into the new Babylon's future. With hearts reunited, with Nebuchadnezzar finally embodying his true self, together they faced a horizon alive with promise. The road ahead would be neither simple nor easy, but they had become forces of radiant change as the new dawn broke over Babylon, shadows lifting forevermore. They both took a deep breath, embracing the adventure that lay ahead. "This is only the beginning," he said, his voice warm with promise, "and together, we'll forge a legacy that endures." With every heartbeat, the past faded, and possibilities bloomed eternal. Now that the story has concluded, don't wait. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and fuel this community. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. Did you expect this twist? I want to hear every thought. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is invaluable, and together we can continue to thrive.